Mr. Barber is out in L.A., the big Hollywood star, mixing and mingling for the Super Bowl. What's up, Teak?
All's good, man. Not quite Hollywood. I'm the farthest thing from Hollywood you could imagine.
I hear you.
I'm closer to Compton than I am to Hollywood. At Thunder Studios out here, having some fun though. As we took a long late flight last night and sitting here getting ready for the show. It's gonna be a fun week out here though. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Mask mandates. Is it suffocating? What is the early vibe out there in California?
Yeah, I mean, we assumed that it was going to be bad, but everywhere you go, you have to have a mask on. And obviously, I'm sitting in a room with a green screen behind me, which I think I'll get up on the Zoom here shortly. But it's kind of similar to New York, to be honest with you, BT. We obviously haven't done anything social because we didn't get in until late last night, but we know how it is out here in California, how it is in a lot of places in the country, and I'm really interested to see what this week is like with how Super Bowl parties and how it goes. It's going to be interesting to see.
All right, I know I've said a few times, but since the deadline is tomorrow, and I'm going to break my own rule because I did say at one point last week this might be the last time we lead with basketball for a while, but I heard something driving home, as I said, coming home for the college basketball game, and I was listening to the press conference after the Knicks got absolutely waxed. I mean, honestly, how the hell do you give up 83 points in the first? Well, it doesn't even matter. I guess it's somewhat immaterial. But what bothered me, and I'm going to get to Barrett even being on the court, which is really just incredibly irresponsible by Tom Thibodeau, who at this point is going to be gone soon. Everything Tom Thibodeau seems to do these days is wrong. And listen, Teague, first of all, I almost never listen to NBA coaches' press conferences, let's be honest. The NFL head coach press, that's a little different. We'll listen to Judge, we'll listen to Saleh, we'll listen to Gase to have a couple of laughs. We'll listen to Dable all the time next year, obviously. I don't get too wrapped up in what Steve Nash has to say, which is usually nothing, and what Tom Thibodeau has to say, which is equally nothing. But last night was, to me, a sign. I would never say that a man who loves basketball doesn't care anymore, but now Tom Thibodeau fully understands that it's over. His imprint on this team is lost. He was talking about how they actually played a good first quarter. You gave up 40 points. This is a guy whose entire principles, all of his principles are rooted in defense. You gave up 40 in the first. You gave up 43 in the second. And I'm listening to Tom Thibodeau talk about how his starters came out and set the tone and played well. Listen, where are we going? Trade everybody but Durant, get rid of Harden, get rid of Irving, get rid of Randall, get rid of everybody but Durant and Barrett. Get rid of everybody. This city team, they suck, man.
You're hating New York basketball right now.
That's atrocious.
But BT, we talked about this yesterday. I understand it from a Nets standpoint. Like they are physically compromised with their starting roster. I mean, every single one of these guys is hurt. I think their entire starting five is out, right, for the Nets. So I almost forgive them. It's not forgivable for the New York Knicks, BT, and we've talked about this for weeks already. When are we going to start putting the pressure? And we put the pressure on Julius Randle. We put it on, Leon Rose. When are we putting it on Tom Thibodeau, who's got this antiquated way of thinking about a game management and minute management within a game? The fact that R.J. Barrett, they're getting blown out, like 16 at the end of the game.
They were down 15 with about 30 seconds. He got hurt with 18 seconds to go.
Yeah, so why?
I don't know.
Why? And it doesn't make sense because, yes, you're trying to harden the kids. You put that in quotes. You got to harden these guys up. You got to, let them push through adversity. It's an old coaching cliche. But when you end up getting him hurt, one, because they're not playing at the heightened enough level, and then he gets hurt, and now who knows how long he's going to miss. Hopefully it's not too long, but who knows if it is. Mm-hmm. And now you're almost forced into playing young guys instead of having to do it because you wanted to play the young guys. It's backwards, and the criticism should have been on him a long time ago, and it's finally, I think, starting to come to fruition.
It is. It's here. And by the way, I'm not as quick to give the Nets the pass that you just gave them. Listen, I know that they had nobody last night, but you're still an NBA team. You're down 28-2. That's a score like LaSalle or Tolentine or Rice or Mount Vernon back in the late 70s, early 80s would drop on some poor suspecting private school that cost $20,000 back then in a little preseason 28-2. All right, but yes, most of the guys are out, but still 28-2 is disgraceful.
Just look at the starting lineup.
Wait a second, but let me ask you this. So take your worst.
None of the starting lineup were in double figures. That's all I'm saying.
Well, by the way, what was his plus minus? Minus 47? I think Patty Mills was minus 47 in like 21 minutes. But listen, the Nets do have a built-in excuse. Their 3 stars didn't play. Okay, here's where Thibs has lost all support in the court of public opinion. R.J. Barrett, all right, last Wednesday played 39 minutes. Saturday night played great. He played 50 minutes. Monday, he comes back. He plays 43. And last night, he's on the court for some moronic reason with 30 seconds to go, and you're down by 15. Now, I don't profess to be able to coach an NBA team, but I think the distribution of minutes is pretty basic stuff. You look down at your assistant, where's RJ at minute-wise? Where's Randall at minutes-wise? Like, it is so irresponsible. He did this to Joakim Noah, which is why when Joakim Noah was 30, he was limping up and down the court. He basically ran Luol Deng into the ground, who was a pretty good player until Tom Thibodeau got through with him. And all of a sudden, Derrick Rose fell apart because he blasted him with 40 minutes a night. I mean, listen, I don't want to be that guy. I'm going to stop short, and maybe everybody can get the inference. I'm going to stop short of saying that the Knicks need to fire Thibodeau. I'm not going to say that today, but what I will say is it's so blatantly apparent that Thibs is not the guy for the future, and they better start formulating a plan B. And I don't know if that plan B is Kenny Atkinson, a New York guy who developed a nice young crop of players with the Nets, but that's the direction they got to go. Get rid of the dead weight, get rid of the stiff veterans who are doing nothing, make trades, give me young blood, and eventually you're going to have a new coach. There's no other way around it. That's where we are.
BT, let me ask
where we
you this.
are.
I mean, you alluded to something just then, which I find interesting, because every sport, football, even hockey, soccer, everything is going the way, baseball certainly, it's been that way for decades now, going the way of analytics, right? You're looking at the minute, not the minute distribution, but like the usage rate of guys and the effectiveness of a player as he gets, say in baseball, you get through 6 innings and, the second, third time through the rotation type of thing. You talk about these analytics that inform you on how to play your players. Do you actually think that Tom Thibodeau does that? I mean, you just said he's looking down the bench and he's telling to his assistant coaches, how many minutes does this guy have? What's the usage been? You think they're actually using these advanced metrics, which are available to them, by the way? They're there. He's not actually using.
I mean,
that.
He has to be. If he's not, he's
but
negligent.
BT, how do you explain then, the fact that Obi Toppin doesn't play, which we've talked about for weeks now, the fact that R.J. Barrett in a blowout loss, what's happening is he's significantly more vulnerable to what exactly happened to him, injury, because of the number of minutes that he talked about. We talked about this earlier in the year too with Julius Randle and the all of these things. He's clearly not using it. Maybe the information is available to him, but he's doing it in an old school way. And so to me, that's the most damning part of this, is that when you have information and you willingly don't use it, and then this happens, say with R.J. Barrett, where you get hurt, like that, you have to hold him accountable for that.
There's no
question. I don't know if that's being happened.
Well, it is on this show. I'll tell you that much. And it has been, I'll be honest, you kind of led, not the charge, but, you planted that seed with Thibodeau, I'd say about a week and a half to maybe 2 weeks ago. I was more focused on Randall, the thumbs down, the press conference told us to go F ourselves, the stark regression in play, this maddening stretch of games where they're going to be underdogs in basically every one. And I told you they're going to the lottery, and I'm going to be right. And you told me the Thibs might be the wrong guy for the job, and ultimately you're going to be proven right. Because what I heard last night, and this was most disconcerting. Listen, we're under no illusion that the Knicks are going anywhere. This is not about that. Like, there are times when really good teams in this city will underachieve, and we will search for answers, and we will be loud, and we will be angry, and we will do whatever it takes to get to the answer, right? This is not that situation. We're just mystified at these antiquated, irresponsible coaching methods of a guy that's supposed to be better at this point. And then I hear the press conference last night. Not an ounce of defiance, not an ounce of resistance. This guy's got the audacity to get in front of a microphone and tell us that they played well in the first quarter. You gave up 40. I mean, listen, that's it. I mean,
and this was the most points that they have not the Celtics that
the Knicks, the Nuggets,
the Denver, the Nuggets had scored in the first half all season long.
And by the way, I don't know. I would guess, because if you double it up, you're going to score almost 170 points.
That's
I mean,
right.
how many teams do that?
No, they scored 77 a few weeks ago, and in the first half, and in this half it was 83. 83.
And how do you not eviscerate your team? Like, and Teague, by the way, listen, I understand, man, that these are grown men making a ton of money, and you can't treat them with a collegiate twist, and the authority has dissipated over the. I understand the dynamic of the modern athlete, but if you can't put them on blast collectively, I don't mean individually. I don't mean you get on there and you say, well, this guy missed his assignments, and this guy was half-assing it, and this guy didn't fight through a pick. I'm not saying that, but you had to hear the start of the press conference. Like, that really pissed me off. There's just no accountability. I couldn't, but like Tom Thibodeau, the reason why I was pretty cool with Thibs coming here, I'm like, okay, Hornacek, Fisher, all these other clowns, right? At least we've got a guy who was on Van Gundy's staff, who was part of the Knicks' success, and I know that Tom loves the Knicks, so that's why I try to be fair to him and sensitive to it, and I do think he's a good basketball coach. But I am so disappointed that this acceptance to this indifference and this spotty play is not what I thought Tom Thibodeau was all about.
No.
And if you're going to continue to run guys into the ground and not be a good defensive coach, or at least not have a good defensive team, well, then what the hell are you doing coaching the Knicks?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to win, and that's the problem. That's
right. That's funny.
That's not what.
That's true.
Funny. It's how do you hold it against them? It's weird. You have two minds. Oh, he's trying to win. He's trying to do the right things by Knicks fans, by the organization. Get these guys the ability to understand what it takes to win some basketball games. But at the end of the day, when you know you're not going to win, and you know that there's talent, and that we all want to see, we just want some clarity on this bench. We need to get the roster consistently correct, and this is what happens. It's I don't know. I understand where they are, but it is very, very frustrating to watch this team on a nightly basis.
This was my bet. You're right. It's you don't even want to watch him anymore. We're back to that.
Yeah,
that's we don't. Who wants to watch him right now? Man, 877-337-6666. I mean, I know that Evan Roberts will and this is not a knock. Evan's a great fan, but I mean, I've got my limits. I think I'm a pretty damn good fan as well, but I have no interest in watching the slop. And this is how I found out about the Chris Magikowski, right? Who's a legend. Everybody knows Madge in the business, right? He's been doing the Mets forever. Great guy, Fordham guy. So he's the engineer for me and Mink with basically every St. John's game.
Yep.
And I was kind of writing some game notes down. And he goes, is that scoreboard right? I go, I don't know. I look up. It says 28-2, Celtics over the Nets. And then I get on my phone. I'm like, let me see what the Knicks are doing. And I look at the Knicks. I'm like, wait, they're on pace to give up 80 points in the first half? This was New York basketball in summation. Now, the good news for the Nets, to your point and mine, this could change immediately. The Knicks, not changing. All right, 877-337-6666. It's disgusting. Richard's in Port Jeff. Rich, you're on the fan.
Yes. Thanks for giving me a call. I never liked Thibs to begin with. I never liked his rotation. I think it was disgusting what he did yesterday when you have a player like McBride, who's the best perimeter defender on the team, put him in with 51 seconds to go in the game. The kid doesn't play. If the kid was guarding the other night, the kid Robinson that scored 32 points, he wouldn't have scored 32 points. Thibs has no clue what to do. And everybody got angry that he didn't call a timeout when there was a couple of seconds to go in the L.A.? Well, what about the players? I played at a high level. I don't need the coach to tell me I need to call a timeout.
Rich.
I would have called it myself.
Rich.
Yes.
Now, Rich, schoolyard legend, CHSAA, PSAL, Big East. Where was Richie's stomping grounds?
Me,
Yeah.
I'm from Brooklyn.
Okay.
I played for Southern Miss. I was a 6th-round draft pick in the NBA in 1961.
God bless you, Rich.
Nice.
Wow, that's awesome, buddy. Credentials bringing him to the table. Thank you, Rich. Southern Miss.
You could get away with calling your own timeouts back then.
That's true. I mean, listen, what bothers me the most, and listen, you heard it. It was impossible not to. When Tom Thibodeau was hired, all right, there was a voice, not even in the back of the room, kind of the middle of the room. Well, he's run this guy into the ground, then he's run this guy into the ground, and he's got an expiration date, and he's this and he's that. There were definitely some platitudes as well. Old school defensive defensively principled. He's going to kind of fix things, which he did to his credit. But the concerns that I knew had followed him through multiple stops, Chicago and obviously Minnesota, I thought, because I do believe he's a basketball lifer and a basketball junkie, that he would be able to resolve those things and develop as a coach. He has not. He has not developed. He has not fixed his weaknesses, and that's unacceptable.
Well, BT, it's hard. If you've been
No, it's
successful-
not. Don't let guys play 40 minutes a night.
Well, hold
What's
on.
so hard about that?
If you've been successful doing it one way for so long, and he's been doing it for so long, BT. Now, he obviously hasn't ultimately won, but he's been very successful. Keeps getting chances to do what he does. He's brought in for a specific reason, and this is why we got to talk about, not now moving on from him, but in the future. He's clearly not going to change. He doesn't have the desire. I won't say ability, because that would be insulting him.
Yep.
He doesn't have the desire to do it a different way. And that's why we're at where we are with the New York Knicks right now.
I thought he'd have a little more adaptability in this. I know he's a little stubborn, and I can respect stubbornness, but I thought he'd be a little bit more pliable. He has not changed. And let's face it, the Knicks always whiff on their draft picks anyway. They pretty much whiffed on Toppin, so they'll probably whiff when we pick 7th again or 8th again this year. But you got to think about this, and we'll get more calls coming up, is even if they struck it like a home run, wow, they got lucky, this guy dropped, or they somehow wound up number 2, do you really trust? And I'm trying to straddle the line of being respectful. I know I'm loud today, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But this is an honest question. Do you trust Tom Thibodeau to nurture the young whomever, whenever that prize prospect comes in, as a young player and manage the minutes and all the things that it takes to make sure when that player's 25, he's not shot? And how, if anybody can say yes, you have not been watching the Knicks. It's that simple. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan.